Hello there, and thank you for joining us on our 8-day cruise on the Carnival Celebration down to the ABC Islands. On this cruise, we're going to depart out of Miami before spending a couple of days at sea and heading to Bonaire, Aruba, and Curaçao. On our first day out of Miami, we ended up coming into the really actually picturesque port of Miami. It is a huge port here. They can handle 8 or 9 large cruise ships out of these terminals here. It's actually a pretty impressive cruise port. On this cruise, we did not realize we were going to be on board with a whole bunch of people in a $1 million slot tournament put on by one of the casinos. But anyway, that's what we ran into here before heading off to our cabin.
Carnival Celebration. This is for cabin 12254, and she thought she was going to get out of helping me, but nope, she was still getting stuck in here doing this tour with me. The balcony cabin on board the Celebration is actually pretty decent sized. And as this is one of the newer Carnival ships, it is actually pretty well equipped. The TV that you have here is a nice big wall-mounted television, and then you also get this desk space that they have here is actually pretty good size. It holds quite a bit of stuff here. There's extra storage shelves on it, and the mirror is nice and large, lights up, and there are plenty of extra US ports on here. 4 USB and 3 regular US grounded outlets. There is a little storage bin underneath the desk here. Now as we head out onto the balcony here, the door was a little bit sticky. Took a little pull here to get it open, but it does work. The balcony is a typical small cruise ship balcony, and the door there was left open to the next balcony beside us, but you can just have your captain steward close that off. But hello there. The closets are actually really nice. There's plenty of storage in them. They have these nice fold-down shelves. There's lots of hangers. It actually is a pretty well thought out storage system that they do have here on these balcony cabins. Now the bathroom is actually pretty nice. The sinks may be a little bit small, but there's plenty of room in here. A couple of people can kind of squeeze in here if they need to. There's storage shelves. There's a full walk-in shower. The water pressure was a little bit light in the shower there, but now you end up with this door that actually opens into the shower that kind of opens in and makes it easy. Now as we leave the bathroom, we'll kind of come over and show you the simple little controls here for the air conditioning, which actually did work very well. There was a key card in there for the main light control, and then they had a couple of light switches here for the rest of the room.
And now that we've dropped our stuff and shown you the room, it's off to sail away. If you find our videos as entertaining as one of Carnival's sail away parties here, please don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Carnival certainly does know how to throw a sail away party. And even though the Carnival Celebration is over 180,000 tons and holds over 5,000 passengers, we ended up sailing out past Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas and MSC's World America here, both of which are significantly larger than the Carnival Celebration. Icon of the Seas is currently the largest cruise ship in existence. And here we are heading out to the port of Miami, which is, like I said, an extremely picturesque port. And just for those of you that want to buy internet, that's the kind of speeds you're going to get. And on that note, it is time for us to head off to dinner. Now, the main dining room dinner in the Carnival Celebration is actually very good. And then after dinner, we headed off to the late night adult comedy before heading off to bed. Our second day was a day at sea, and that day we decided to start off the day by heading off to the fitness center to get in a little workout before getting some food. This ship's a little bit used, but that's about all the wear and tear you're going to end up seeing there in the buffet seat. Here we are in the adults only Serenity deck space before we headed back to our room to change for dinner. Now, we ended up eating in the main dining room again that evening, and again, the food was actually pretty good there. Their food is not necessarily the best I've ever had, but it is by no means the worst. It is very, very good, and I would eat there anytime. And they always make it entertaining. And then after dinner and a show, we headed off to the adult comedy to grab a couple of drinks. which I am sorry I'm unable to record, but the show after this in Celebration Central I could record to my heart's content. Day 3 was another day at sea, and we decided we'd go ahead and experience some of the different dining that was on board the Carnival Celebration. Here is Guy's Burger Joint, and here is the main lunch buffet, which we'll kind of give you a tour of here. The main lunch buffet is not as big as others, but there is certainly plenty to choose from. There's salads and meats, desserts, ice creams. They do a bunch of gelato there, and a lot of other food to go with it. After lunch, it was time to go see what kind of craziness they had going out on deck, because there's always some sort of party or event going on. After which, we decided to go back and visit our towel animals before getting ready and heading off to Chibang for dinner that evening, which is free for the first visit. And then after that, if you want to go again, I think it's $7 or $8. But it's certainly not expensive if you really liked what Chibang had and don't mind paying a little bit of extra money. For something that is a little bit different than the dining room, this is a fusion of Mexican and Oriental food here, and it is pretty good. And then after Chibang, we went into Carnival Central for a performance of the Magnificent Circus. After the performance, we headed back to Guy's Pig and Anchor in the Heroes Tribute Lounge, where we could go ahead and take in a little bit of live music. This is also a place where you can get barbecue, but in our case, we just wanted a little bit of music, some of the free ice cream they have back here, and to watch a little bit of live sports before the end of the evening. Our next day, we were arriving in one of my favorite islands in all of the Caribbean, Bonaire. Bonaire is one of the 3 islands that are owned by the Dutch down here. Aruba, Bonaire, and Curaçao are all owned and managed by the Dutch. And Bonaire is mostly a national park and is considered a diver's paradise, so we decided to go over to the Chigogo Dive and Beach Resort, where I had booked a 2-tank dive and where Vicky could go ahead and hang out at the beach and at the resort here while I went diving. The cost to get into the beach resort is $25 per person, but that does include $10 worth of food or beverage credit, so you can apply it here at the bar to get either food or drink. The resort is actually very nice. There's a wonderful beach area, a really nice pool. There's plenty of places where you can get in the ocean if you want to go snorkeling here off the beach. I didn't actually go snorkeling there, so I don't know how good it is, but as you tour around the resort here, you'll notice that they also have their own lazy river there. And then at the far end is where the dive shop is, where I ended up going out of. That's actually the vehicle we went to the 2 shore dives in that I had booked. They literally do just a bunch of shore dives out of here to make it easy. The Salt Pier was the very first dive site that I went to, and it's called the Salt Pier for a reason. There's mountains of salt out there. The underwater here is absolutely crystal clear. It's a beautiful place to go dive. There are tons of fish hanging out here. There are really beautiful sights with all the pilings that come down from the Salt Pier. The only downside is sometimes there is a ship here doing a salt pickup, and the pier is a little bit hard to dive at, but like I said, there's all kinds of sea life, including a sea turtle here who decided he was going to go ahead and go to the bottom and try and grab something to eat while we were swimming around with him here. Now, after the Salt Pier dive, we ended up coming up to get a couple pieces of salt before heading off to Angel City, where they do a lot of coral restoration and coral farming here as well. They also have a bunch of additional sea life. Anywhere you go on any of the dive sites here in Bonaire, you're gonna have a really good dive with really clear water for your diving experience. After the dive, I went ahead and returned back to the Chigogo Dive Resort, where I was going to go ahead and use that food and beverage credit because I'd worked up quite an appetite to grab a couple of drinks and get some food to eat here, which was actually very, very good food at the resort. Before heading back over to the cruise ship, the taxi driver was actually kind enough to take us down the waterfront drive so we could get a nice little scenic view as we went back to the ship, to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what the waterfront area here is like in Bonaire. If I were actually going to stay in Bonaire, I'd have no problem staying back at Chigogo. That actually was a very nice resort and a really great experience. Here we are heading back through the shops at the port before heading back onto the ship to visit our towel pets and go grab some barbecue back at Guy's Pig and Anchor, which has really good desserts as well as their barbecue. And now it's time for a little bit of stand-up comedy up in the Limelight Lounge because Punchliners was being used for the slot tournament that was all over the ship at this point. Our next port of call was the next morning over in Aruba. Now, in Aruba, we would normally kind of find something fun to go do, but we decided we'd skip the cruise line tours and go ahead and take a little bit of a tour here over to the area that's known as kind of the high-rise district on Aruba. The mall that we're here, we decided to go ahead and grab something to eat at. This restaurant was really, really good, and those Dutch pancakes were amazing. And then after grabbing something to eat, we decided we'd go on a little walking tour throughout the Eagle Beach and the high-rise area of Aruba. We started here down at the south end, and as you can tell, even the south end of this area is beautiful white sand beaches. There's resorts that line the entire area along this high-rise district that's kind of on the left-hand side of the map there. There's walkways that go back and forth up and down the area. Eagle Beach has all kinds of different amenities. They have little beach bars and restaurants along the area. The beach is huge. There is no way you could ever fill up these beach areas. You'll always find a place like Coco Loco like this is really popular as it leads on out to a lot of these shady covered areas and umbrellas, and this massive beach that is the south end of Eagle Beach. A lot of times you're going to end up paying for those lounge chairs and umbrellas. They vary in cost. I've seen them and heard of them being as high as $70 for 2 chairs and an umbrella. But the walkway is all up and down the road. All these resorts are across the street. You won't have an issue finding a place to stay and be able to get out to the beach, kind of like these two that are running across in their bare feet to go to the beach from their hotel across the street. And like I said, Eagle Beach is just a huge, massive beach here. So as we kind of keep heading north, we're going to go up to this main parking area that is where kind of Eagle Beach's main entrance is for all the vehicles and bus traffic. It's a huge drop-off point. It's where all the party buses like this one go to. And sorry, I've never actually been on one of those party buses, but that probably would be a really good time. Now here we are kind of coming to the north end where we're going to end this, and then we're going to grab a taxi just here on the side of the road, which I think the taxi ride was about $11 to get back before we head back to the ship and go grab a well-deserved drink here at the Alchemy Bar. The Alchemy Bar is kind of one of the premier bars here, and it is really good for their drinks. After the Alchemy Bar, we went over to get dinner at Cucina di Capitano. This is an Italian-inspired restaurant. It's similar to Chibang, as you get one visit for free, and it's $7 or $8 again for a second visit if you wish to go grab another round of food here if you really enjoy their food instead of going to the main dining. And yes, she viciously guards her desserts. And after dinner, we went to a vocal performance of the Magnificent Circus. And then after our late night departure from Aruba, we sailed overnight over to the final. Now, over in Curacao, we decided we would go ahead and book a tour through the cruise ship. It was a ride out to a catamaran where we would be taking out snorkeling along one of their nice little areas to go see a little sunken treasure. It was out by another area that we could go have some fun at. They did two different sites for us. I honestly don't remember what they were called, but this is kind of what you get when you do a snorkeling tour here in Curacao. It's very clear, it's very nice. You get to find a little sunken tugboat under here that you can explore. There'll definitely be a bunch of fish hanging around some of these man-made reefs that they sink under the water here for you. And I do believe they did actually feed the fish here a little bit so that the fish would come around and spend a little bit more time with the snorkelers that were down here. This tour was actually really good. They gave us plenty of time to spend in the water where we could go swim around and explore and kind of take a look at the sites that were underwater here. We even both got to practice a little bit of time underwater with some free diving just to have a little fun and play down with the fishes a little bit. It's always fun to get to practice spending a little bit of time underwater without scuba gear just to kind of help out your diving skills. Anyway, after we ended up doing the snorkeling trip out here and spending the time with all the schools of fish, which were actually very plentiful out here, the group let us spend a little bit of time back on board having some fun. They had lunch for us, we got food, we got something to drink, and we got a really picturesque ride here on the boat as we headed back into the area that the boat was docked at. So after we got back and headed back to the ship, we ended up going off to get something to eat here at Shack's Big Chicken. The chicken is actually pretty good. Their chicken sandwiches are pretty tasty. I'd be one of those places you can go grab something to eat. And then she decided she was going to challenge me at mini golf up on their adventure fun deck that they have up on deck 18, I believe is where this is. but she always likes to challenge me in mini golf because she kicks my butt every single time we play, so I can understand why she does that. This is also a really fun place because you get to sit underneath their roller coaster that they run around the ship here. Roller coaster looks like it's a kind of a fun little launch here. They wouldn't let us take any cameras on the ride, so unfortunately this is going to be the only footage I can get for you of the roller coaster, but I can understand why they don't want you having cameras up there. After we finished playing mini golf and watching the people get super freaked out by a super slow roller coaster on board a ship, we decided to head back and kind of tour up on this sports deck area. They do have this massive basketball court where they do hold different sporting events, but we went ahead and went back over to the pool area to see what was going on and head on over to the Red Frog Tiki Bar, as that's what those of us do who like tropical weather. We go to a tiki bar and grab something to drink before heading back to visit our pets and watch the pier runners, which is always a fun and exciting thing to do. These two here made it by about 5 minutes, as they were running down that pier, they were actually dropping the lines for the boat, so they were really kind of pushing their limits there. Anyway, after that we headed off to dinner to go grab some food up in the main dining room, and again, the food was actually pretty good. Didn't have any real complaints. Good desserts. After which was comedy and a main theater performance.
So please help me welcome to the stage, Manny Acosta.
Our next day was a day at sea, and we decided to go ahead and try the blue iguana tacos that are actually really, really good. The blue iguana tacos are an amazing culinary delight for me, but after the tacos we went ahead and went off to the Serenity adults only area to catch a little bit of sun before we headed off to dinner, where they were serving lobster and prime rib, and well, I'm all in if you've got lobster and prime rib. That's where I'm heading for dinner. After dinner, we headed off to their show that evening in Celebration Central.
Let's get loud, let's get loud. Turn the music up, let's do it. Come on, people, let's get loud. We gotta move, you heard me, don't you say? Nice and party, make it hot. Dance, don't ever stop, whatever rhythm. Every minute, every beat can be so very sweet. You gotta feel it.
After the show, you guessed it, was a little bit of stand-up comedy before heading off to our final day at sea here. On our final day at sea, since the tacos were so good, we decided we'd go ahead and try the burrito side of Blue Iguana and the burritos were just as good as the tacos. They're actually really, really tasty. The burritos you can do custom your own way, and they have various different meats, lots of different toppings, and a little bit of bar behind there. Figured we'd go off to Alchemy Bar, but they were doing a drink class. So instead we said farewell to our towel pets before heading off to dinner that evening for one last night of dining in their main dining room, which again was great. Now, instead of Alchemy, we went ahead and went to the Golden Jubilee Bar here, where they make some amazing drinks. They actually made these really cool blue martinis, and they were actually very skilled at what they did here. They were actually good enough to do a little picture of the ship and the chocolate martinis before we headed off to the theater for one last night of, you guessed it, stand-up comedy. Now, typically we are celebrity cruisers, and this is not a celebrity cruise, but on these newer Carnival ships, they are absolutely a good time, and there's nothing wrong with taking one of these cruises. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.